On February 2nd, a Christian website called Eternal Planner published a video podcast called Evangelical Christians React to Young Skeptics After School Club. In the video's description, it read, "What should our stance be towards secular clubs like Young Skeptics, which teach evolution to young people?" The creators of Young Skeptics clearly have a goal to convert children to atheism. As the co-founder and communications director for Young Skeptics, I responded to the owner of the site, Rob Rennie, and advised that instead of making false accusations about the group, why not have a representative of the group on his podcast to tell the truth about what the club is about. Surprisingly, Rob responded, and I was invited on the show. Next, you'll hear the resulting conversation in its entirety. Rob did post the interview on his YouTube page, but only 15 minutes of it. I've posted the links to the original podcast and the follow-up podcast below. Thanks for listening. I hope this conversation clears up a few things about the Young Skeptics Club.
A friend of mine came over and we talked about Young Skeptics, which is an after-school club in upstate New York. And I said a few words about it and caught the attention of one of the co-founders of Young Skeptics, Kevin Davis, who wanted to correct me on a few things I said. And and I wanted to talk to him too because I'd like to know more about the Young Skeptics and what they do. So it's my pleasure to bring Kevin Davis on the show.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Kevin, what's going on? So, I said a few things about Young Skeptics based on what I read, and it said, I actually went back to the website, youngskeptics.net.
Right.
And something that it says here on this page, the About page, it kind of struck a chord with me, which I did not like.
Okay.
Which it says that the Good News Club, a Christian evangelical group, proselytizes to children, declares them all sinners in need of salvation, and it says that the approach of Good News clubs is a form of psychological abuse akin to telling small children they're flawed or evil and must subscribe to dogma.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, Christians do say that everyone's as a sinner and needs salvation, but I don't see that as a form of psychological abuse. And, I think most people would agree.
Well, I'm not sure that most people would agree, and possibly most people of the Christian faith or a certain denomination of Christian faith might agree. But I think we're talking about a larger group here. So, just to give you a little background on why that statement was made, Young Skeptics, the Good News Club, operates in public schools, and they won a Supreme Court case back in 2001 to be able to do that. So they introduced themselves to parents as and this is on their permission slip that we've seen, and it's public, as a group that is all about fun and games and teaching lessons from the Bible. Now, at face value, sure, that's great. I mean, if you're a religious parent or a Christian parent and you want to send your kid to that, I don't have any issue with it, and neither does any of the other founders of the group. However, once we get past that, the kids are then in a group with people in the community, other parents, or people from the local church in school. And remember, these are kids at the elementary school level, so they're like anywhere from age 5 or 6 to 12 or so, and they're being taught that they have this inherent evil in them. They have they are sinners, and they are worthy of death. And I'll just give you a quick example and this is from their curriculum. They have an exercise that they go through, and so all the kids, picture this: all the kids are in the room like a cafeteria, and remember, these are little kids, right? Who believe what they're told by adults. So the adult at the front of the room brings a volunteer up and says, has an envelope in their hand and says, say little Johnny, right? Johnny, I've got something for you. You've earned this. And hands little Johnny the envelope and says, just like you earn an allowance. You've done something to earn this. What do you think you've done? And the child responds, they take a guess, right? So the adult says, you've done something we've all done. You've sinned. Let's see what you've earned for sinning. And the child opens the envelope, and inside is a piece of paper that says death. Now, you and I, being adults, could have a debate about whether or not that is a figurative death, and that's a death meaning separation from God, or a spiritual death. But to a 6-year-old, if you're talking about death, you're telling that kid that he or she deserves to die because they've done something to offend a deity that they're being taught about. And we sent a portion of the Good News Club's materials to his child psychologist to have him take a look at it, just to kind of see if, are we the crazy ones just because we don't believe in this stuff? Let's get somebody from the outside to take a look. And the child psychologist said, yeah, this is kind of intimidating children and is damaging to their self-esteem. So to us, certainly we've concluded that that is akin to psychological abuse of a child, and coercing a child into accepting this doctrine, this dogma that you're presenting to them, rather than teaching stories about morality or something like that. To present an idea that you will be punished unless you follow this set of rules, it's damaging to a child's psyche.
Well, I agree with you in the sense that that particular activity that you're talking about sounds like it's not appropriate for the age group of these children. I wonder what else that they're doing, what other types of activities that they do. Look, I'm not going to stand here and defend the Good News Club because I don't know anything about them.
Right.
All I know is that they're Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to be Christian, but I also know that there are a lot of Christians doing funky stuff in the name of Christianity, which I may or may not agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I were to ask you, are you against this particular club operating in your school district as an after-school club? Would you say that you're against their freedom to practice this group or to participate?
No, absolutely not. We're not taking a position that we are against their freedom to assemble. I mean, sure, we don't like that they're doing it in a school because doing it inside a school, and they've they went to the Supreme Court to get this right to have it in a school, and for good reason, because kids believe what they're told in school, right? I mean, it's a methodology that they're using that works. Fine. That aside, we're not arguing with their right to have meetings. We're not going out and saying, let's close down every Christian youth group in the country. That's crazy. I mean, people in this country are certainly, have the right to their belief systems, just as I do, and we don't take issue with that. The issue that we have is the methodology that they use, to get to kids and to kind of prey on their tendency to believe what they're told by adults, and and the methods that they're using to intimidate kids into following a certain path.
Kevin, are you religious yourself? How would you describe your belief system?
I'm an atheist. I was brought up Catholic. For a time, I was a born-again Christian, and kind of through my own research and my own education and things like that in religious backgrounds in philosophy, I came to my own conclusions that atheism was something that was right for me based on what I found.
Okay. I feel like I said something in that video. I said that you guys are an atheist after-school club based on what I see, because you say something that many people would deem as a criticism of Christianity and this Good News Club, and you also say that it was formed in direct response to the Good News Club.
Right.
I'm talking about the Young Skeptics, right?
Right.
So for those two reasons, I think that the fact that you're atheist yourself, all I know is what it says on your website, that you're in favor of critical thinking.
Right.
And I would think that critical thinking is a great thing. I'm in favor of critical thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
But how much of your belief system is seeping into what you teach your students at this Young Skeptics? So what do you do at the Young Skeptics? What kind of activities do you do with them?
So Young Skeptics, and we're still developing our curriculum, but the topic of religion is actually something that we never talk about, because we have this issue with the methodology of the Good News Club, and what they're doing with kids in the schools, and how they're doing it. It would be counterintuitive to our own philosophy and our own mission to preach atheism, if that's even a thing, or try to get kids to be atheists. We feel that religion is a private matter and should be in homes and in places of worship, and something that's not addressed in schools per se. So it's not our mission to take religion from kids, to tell them what they believe is nonsense or anything like that. It's our mission, and in reference to us being formed in response to the Good News Club, we're formed in response to the Good News Club in the way that we're opposed to their methodology, and we want to give kids and parents an alternative to sending their kids to a fun activity after school, that instead of teaches them someone else's beliefs as if they should be their own, we teach them how to decide what their beliefs would be. And that's not in a religious sense, but in a, what to believe about the world around them. So we're teaching them things like how to evaluate evidence, what is opinion versus fact, and how do you determine between the two. What are different types of evidence, what's stronger evidence than others, and playing games around that. So we've had 2 meetings so far. We have some topics lined up for our future meetings. We have 6 for this school year, and then we'll start working on the following. But our first class was about weighing, like I said, fact versus opinion, and we focused on that. And kids give examples of what's fact, what's opinion, and we told a story, and they incorporated those things and played a game. Our class this month was about evidence. We had a police officer come in, a local police officer, and he told the kids how he uses evidence at his job, and we talked about what types of people use evidence, and then the kids played a game where they found pieces to a puzzle around the room and put them together. First they made they developed a hypothesis about what's the puzzle going to be based on their own piece, and then they got together and put other pieces together and realized that, as you get more evidence, the picture becomes clearer and things like that. So, it's all of our activities have nothing to do with religion. They're about critical thinking. They're about problem solving, and in in an education system where right now the focus is on passing tests and memorizing facts and things like that, we felt that one of the things that might be missing is that critical thought piece. So we're trying to focus on that and give kids tools to be able to make their own decisions based on information that they gather from wherever.
Well, I mean, that sounds great. Actually, it sounds like a great club. I think that the activities that you're planning with your students are good. I just want to say that I think critical thinking skills are necessary. I think media literacy in general is necessary, because a lot of students are taught, whether the discipline is mathematics, science, whatever, it's all doctrine. It's really they're learning stuff that's, there's not really room for questioning, I would think. except maybe for English class, where you talk about skills and themes and things like that. But you know, I think your club sounds like it's doing something that maybe there's a need for. How many people are involved in this club?
As far as volunteers?
Volunteers, but also students.
So our volunteers, we have probably about a dozen, depending on the day and and who's available and things like that. Our board of directors we have 4 people. I'm the communications director for the group. We have an executive director, a human resources person, who vets our volunteers and things like that. And then we have a curriculum director, who, by the way, is not an atheist, so probably would have a huge problem with us teaching atheism in our classes. We have other volunteers from the community that come in and help us with the classes. And in our first class, because it was difficult to get the word out to parents as to what was going on, being that we're not affiliated with the school, so the school didn't really help us in advertising. They're not supposed to do that. So we had just 2 kids in our first class. Our next class we had 7 with a couple that didn't make it but were scheduled to, and we're expecting to grow as the word gets around and kids are talking to their classmates about it and things like that.
That's good. Now they're very young. So how young are we talking?
We had kids between 6 and 12 years old in our last class. So we're depending on who's there and what the age group is, we're kind of directing our curriculum towards that age. So we're reacting as we go and trying to make the concepts as easy to understand as possible for the younger kids.
Okay. It just sounds like critical thinking is a skill that you have to exercise it within the boundaries of some other subject. I mean, to talk about critical thinking skills in a vacuum by itself doesn't seem to make sense. That's why I mentioned the media literacy. If you talk about critical thinking skills within the boundaries of what the media tells us and is right or wrong, based on political biases and things like that, I feel like that might make sense, but maybe the kids are too young for that. Or maybe like you did with the second, I guess, meeting where you invited a cop to talk about, investigating a crime scene and things like that. That makes sense. I'm sure that you guys are going to come up with things that are more appropriate and stuff like that. But I mean, are you getting a negative reception from the Christian community around you, or a positive one, or what?
We've had a mix. We hit the national media, pretty strongly in the beginning of January, which is where that when that Blaze story came out. Blaze, picked up on the psychological abuse angle, and they decided to go with that, and it's kind of half clickbait, half writing to their audience. But we were in the Washington Post, which is a pretty decent story. We were in the Christian Post, and a few others, but and name the blog site, I think we got picked up everywhere. But as far as the local community, we've had kind of a mix. We were on a local radio show, a call-in show, where we had a mix of people calling in, some supportive and some, kind of taking the angle that you did in your first show, saying that we're teaching atheism to kids regardless of what we're saying, which, I felt was kind of unfair that, without seeing what we're doing. All of our classes are videotaped and put up on our YouTube channel for parents and anybody in the community to see what we're doing and what lessons we're teaching. So, we're trying to have as much transparency as we can so that people don't get the wrong idea. The media picked up on the fact that all the co-founders were atheists and, went with that angle because, that's what sells advertising and that's what gets clicks to their site, that, this atheist group came up and is, in this big fight with the Good News Club when, in effect, the Good News Club didn't even know who we are. So, there's a lot of angles to take.
Yeah, it worked out good for you. I mean, you got some coverage out of that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we definitely did. Like I said, some positive and some negative, but we're trying to work through everything that we can. I certainly uh, don't have the time or the patience to respond to every article that paints us in a negative light. Um, yours kind of struck a nerve with me, so I sent you the comment.
I thought I was pretty. I don't know. I didn't say anything too. I guess nasty, did I?
No, not nasty, but certainly inaccurate. I mean, the title of your video was, what should we do about, not the title, but the description, what should we do about groups that are teaching evolution um, to young people, which it's already in the school curriculum, so it's not even something we're covering, and I'm not sure, where you got that from, because no one wrote that anywhere that I can see. And then you said
I wrote the description to the video, you're saying?
yeah, the description to the video on your website says, what should our stance be towards secular clubs like Young Skeptics, which teach evolution to young people? The creators of Young Skeptics clearly have a goal to convert children to atheism. So, I mean, call it what you want, but...
Well, Kevin, I have to apologize now because I was wrong. So I apologize that I misled people by stating something that was not true about your group. I guess what I did was I made a big mistake. I mean, I should have maybe found out more before I jumped to conclusions.
Oh, I appreciate that. Maybe you were just working on the follow-up show. I don't know what the...
Honestly, I nothing under my sleeve or anything like that. But I mean, look, I guess when you look at the surface information that you've presented with,
mm-hmm.
The fact that you yourself are atheist, some of these in the about page about your group. I mean, here's the way I see things is this. If someone has a particular bent, let's say, for example, you're a teacher at a public school and you're teaching history, and you have a conservative mindset, let's say,
mm-hmm.
Your conservatism will infiltrate your teaching your students. It's just will. Would you agree with that?
I think it's possible.
Okay. I'm a teacher, actually, and I can tell you for a fact that it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what we'll do is I'll have to keep my eyes on what you guys are doing, and if I do see something, then I'll say something.
By all means,
that'll be more fair. But I'm curious about you, Kevin. You say that you were raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
What turned you off to Christianity, if you don't mind, talking about that?
Well, I was raised Catholic, but and actually I wrote a book about it, so you could certainly check that out. It's called Understanding an Atheist.
Okay.
But I was raised Catholic. Went to Catholic school up to 8th grade. Never really, bought in 100% to Catholicism. Went to church on holidays and things like that, and did my Catholic studies at school. Didn't go to a Catholic high school. Went to a public high school, but ended up, for whatever reason, surrounding myself with Christian friends, which was, and not Catholic friends, but different denominations of Christianity, which was new to me because the only thing that I'd ever seen was Catholicism. I was kind of in a Catholic bubble for a while, I think. But, went to youth group sometimes with friends, went to church with friends here and there, but it never really appealed too much to me. I went to college locally, and again was friends with folks who were Christian, and went to some meetings with those folks at the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, which is a national campus program, kind of a youth group for college kids. And after going to that for a little while, decided to devote my life to Christianity, and became a born again Christian, and it didn't last too long for me. The following semester, I took a course called Christian Thought, which I thought was going to cement my my beliefs and surround me with like-minded students and help support that. But it was actually a history course, and we talked about where Christianity came from. And it was taught by a Christian, so there wasn't like an agenda or anything like that. So we talked about the origins of Christianity, how it spread throughout the world, and through war and mass murder, and we can go on and on about that kind of stuff. I think that's a conversation for another day. But realized that there was a lot I didn't know about the belief system that I had decided to subscribe to, and went on my own fact-finding mission, and read a lot about Christianity, read about the origins of the Bible and other religions, and kind of came to my own conclusions that that religion itself, it was spread as a tool to control people and get political leverage. So at that point, I was turned off and kind of examined, where do I see a deity around me, and with my own kind of lifelong tendency towards problem solving and critical thought, I came to the conclusion that I didn't see any evidence of any deity in the universe. So.
And you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe, and we live in a great country where we have freedom of religion. I think what happens is that conservatives and Christians are like very, what's the word I'm thinking of? We're very sensitive these days, mm-hmm. because of all the different. Would you agree, if you turn on the TV or you watch a movie, most of what you hear is anti-Christian, anti-conservative? Talk about atheists. You don't strike me as an atheist who hates Christians, but I'm sure you know that there are a lot of atheists out there who hate Christians, and who make it very, very plain to people that they hate Christians. Say very, very unflattering things. Meanwhile, they don't say a word about Islamic terrorism. They don't say a word about ISIS. Not a negative word about the religion of Islam. The worst a Christian will do is pray for you or tell you about hell. But the worst a Muslim will do is cut your head off or kill you. So what am I missing, Kevin?
Well, you've said a lot of things, and a lot of them are generalizations. I don't, I have a lot of atheist friends, and I'm very active in the atheist community. And from what I see, and I'm sure that I probably know a lot more atheists than you do, but from what I see, atheists don't generally, don't hate Christians. They probably hate Christianity more than they hate Christians. And we need to be able to separate the two, where belief systems aren't necessarily worthy of our admiration and respect. We should be able to question belief systems just as you can question atheism and say it's, a pile of whatever. I can say the same thing about Christianity or Islam. I think we need to separate the belief system from the person, whereas people have have the right to believe what they want to believe. We don't need to respect those people for having those beliefs if we think that those beliefs, are ridiculous. And we don't need to respect the belief system. We can respect the person because they're a human being, but we don't need to respect them because they because they believe something. So, whereas you go out in public and somebody may say, "Oh no, I'm a good person because I'm a Christian." Well, being a Christian and believing a set of doctrine does not make you a good person. Your actions make you a good person. So to generalize, specific groups and say that, this group doesn't like this group, or this group doesn't say anything about this group, I would say I think we're better off judging people as individuals rather than making assumptions about certain groups.
But if you lived in a Muslim country, Kevin, you wouldn't have the freedom to say what you're saying.
Right. That's why I don't live there.
Right. But you were lucky that you were not born there.
Right. As are you.
Right. But I'm saying that it doesn't make sense to me. And you do know more atheists than I do, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many. What I do know, though, of atheists is what I see when I go on YouTube. I go to different atheist websites, YouTube channels, and things like that. You know which ones I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Sure.
And if you scroll down the comments section there, it's vitriol. It's pure vitriol.
Sure.
My only point that I was trying to make is that you don't see that type of vitriol coming from Christians toward atheists. You just don't. I mean, say what you will about Christians, they're not spewing that type of vitriol toward non-believers. They're just not. Would you agree with that?
I would challenge you to go back to that Blaze article and read through the comments if you really think that. I mean, let's be honest. The people who read the Blaze are on the right side, of the political spectrum. It's Glenn Beck's website. This is a guy that was, so so full of spewing right-wing propaganda that he lost advertisers and had to leave Fox News and start his own cable channel. So the readers that he has are very, very Christian and on the right-wing side of Christianity. So I would challenge you to go through those comments if you really think that Christians aren't spewing hate about atheists, and take a look and see who's commenting there. I think that it depends on where you're looking to see who's commenting and what they think. But remember, when you're on a website and you're on, say, an atheist YouTube channel or whatever, and you're reading comments from people who are outspoken atheists. There are probably so many atheists that you don't know they're atheists, because they're not spewing atheist rhetoric or whatever you want to call it and telling you that you're crazy for being a Christian. But 8 to 10% of the people in our country are people who don't subscribe to a religion or are atheists. So think about that it's possible that 1 out of 10 people that you know is an atheist, and you may not know that.
Oh, well, I mean, you're right about the comments, because the comments section seems to draw kind of like the worst of the worst, maybe.
Right. I mean, this is the internet. Come on.
Yeah, it's so I'll give you that, definitely. But when it comes to like religions in general, I think that clearly, if you're going to attack some religion, like you were saying earlier, you don't have to attack the Christian themselves, but the religion. Then why not attack a religion that is actually resulting in people dying right now, this second?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not seeing that. To me, it's hypocritical. That's all.
Well, and it might, the criticism of Christianity probably also hits home more for you than it would any other religion, because you're living Christianity. So that's what you're sensitive to. And in this country, certainly Christians are the majority. So, they're going to be the ones that are, that take the heat and have more people commenting about them. I don't know if you're trying to make a case that, Christians are being persecuted in some way.
Absolutely. You don't see that? It's all over the world. I'm not just in this country.
Right, I'm talking about this country. I mean, certainly atheists are just as persecuted as Christians, if not more. If you just look at the blogger that was just beat to death for being an atheist blogger, and I mean, really, it's more in when we're talking about theocracies and Muslim countries, it's any non-Muslim that is being persecuted. It's not Christians. It's not atheists. It's everyone that doesn't subscribe to the to the ruling powers religion. So as far as the United States goes, when we have a United States federal government where more than 95% of our representatives consider themselves to be Christian or of a Judeo-Christian faith, and we're the people voting them into office, I wouldn't think that we're being persecuted at all. We don't have a single person who's an out atheist in our federal government. And we're talking about a demographic that is 8 to 10% of the country.
Well, you're right about the atheist blogger, first let me talk about that. I mean, that's a terrible tragedy. I don't think that anyone would wish someone to die. I don't care if they're atheist, Hindu, whatever. They shouldn't have to die like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that maybe because there are fewer of them, that you don't hear so many atheists being killed by Islamists. You do hear a lot more Christians because maybe there are more Christians out there being killed by Islamists. But getting to the government itself, and you said that most elected representatives are Christian, which is true. You don't hear any atheists I don't think an atheist would get elected. I just don't.
We've had atheists elected and only come out as an atheist after they leave office, because it's so detrimental to them being elected, because they're judged based on, which is hard for atheists to understand, because you're judging a person based on his belief system or lack thereof, when the case can be made that atheist, that atheist came to a conclusion most likely based on their own critical thinking, based on, the common misconception that we hear all the time from the religious world is that atheists are mad at God or they hate God. That's ridiculous, right? You can't hate something that you don't believe exists. You can't be mad at something you don't believe exists. So it's not that we had some traumatic experience that we left religion and said, maybe it's cool to be an atheist, because being an atheist and being an out atheist is a very difficult thing. I have gay friends who are gay atheists who have said it was much easier to come out as a gay person in our country than it was an atheist.
Well, atheists are a very small minority, and I don't think that it's going to continue to. Well, I could be wrong about that too, but I just see that it's not it's not. First of all, I don't want to get into the whole is it a religion or not. It's whatever belief system is fine. It's not a belief system that people respect, because I think people they know that how could we getting into the whole how did we come to be human beings, and our heartbeats and our circulatory systems functioning in unison perfectly, and if it was 1 degree different we would die and all this stuff, and if the sun were 1 fraction of a centimeter further away from the earth we would all perish of cold, and all these things. And I think people look at stuff like that and they say, well, obviously we may disagree about who God is, and that's like the next stage. But we all agree that there is a higher power, and I think most people who live on Earth do believe that. So but getting atheists, it's really convoluted arguments and stuff, and I just think that the reason why Christians don't like maybe they react the wrong way toward atheists is because of frustration. It's like wringing our hands in frustration. Like, how can you not look around and know and see and know that there is a God? But that's just how it is.
Well, it's certainly something that you believe, and you're certainly entitled to that. I happen to not believe that, and I happen to take a more scientific approach, I suppose. I don't believe that our universe is perfect. I don't believe that the human body is perfect. We have parts that we don't use. We have a source of energy that can give us cancer. We could list the issues with our universe until we're blue in the face, and you could probably, argue them all away if you want to. But I wouldn't say it's perfect. We have a universe that no one can grasp the complete size of. That seems like if we had a creator, that's a monumental waste of space for no reason whatsoever. So there's a lot of things we could talk about for hours and hours about what you and I believe, and that's fine. It's not what I'm here for, but
Just curious. I just figured since I had you on, I might as well talk. I always like to get into that a little bit, you know.
yeah, I mean, I'm certainly open to discussing that. I'm not a scientist, and you're not a scientist, and science doesn't have all the answers and doesn't purport to. But I think that as each day progresses, we get more answers to the questions that we have, and I think it's great that we have so many questions, and I think scientific discovery is awesome, and I just get thrilled when I see more and more progress as to the growth of our knowledge base.
Okay. Well, Kevin Fisher is co-founder of Young Skeptics After School Club.
Kevin Davis.
I'm sorry, Kevin Davis. My fault. Kevin Davis, co-founder of Young Skeptics After School Club in Monroe County, New York, right? Monroe County?
Right.
Churchville, New York. Churchville, New York. So check him out, youngskeptics.net. And Kevin Davis, I definitely just want to say that as long as you do the critical thinking skills and teaching the kids different concepts, strategies for figuring stuff out, that sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate the willingness to talk about this topic. And I know that I probably came at you pretty strongly on the comments on your video, and I'm glad that you decided to have me on to chat.
Yeah, me too. All right. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Take care.